रेडियो जिंदगी 1170 AM पे वेलकम लिसनर्स। मैं हूं आपके साथ हीरा। शो लेके आए हैं द शाह पीराली लॉ शो, ब्रॉट टू यू बाय द शाह पीराली लॉ ग्रुप। Attorney Shah Peerally joins us from now till 11 a.m. and he is the founder, president and managing attorney of the Shah Peerally Law Group, which is right here in Newark, California. He is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association as well as the State Bar of California. He is a passionate advocate of human rights, civil rights, social action, and social services, and he has a strong interest in and knowledge of the political legal system in the US. He formed his law group to work on the causes that he feels most ardent about. His law group focuses on immigration law with an emphasis on employment based immigration, and he helps clients all over the US. Offices are in Newark, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. Listeners, if you'd like to contact him, if you'd like to connect with him, you can call us right now during the show on the studio number 510 657 1170. That's 510 657 1170. उसके अलावा इफ़ यूड लाइक टू स्पीक टू हिम डायरेक्टली, अपना कोई केस आप उनसे डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं, बात करना चाहते हैं, तो अपॉइंटमेंट ले सकते हैं। उनके ऑफिस का नंबर है 510-742-5887। दैट्स 510-742-5887। वेबसाइट है peerallylaw.com। दैट्स PEERALLYLAW.com. Without any further delay, Attorney Shah, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ara. Good morning to all the listeners. Thank you so much for the nice welcome and the nice introduction. And today, Ira, we're going to have a guest talking about Canadian immigration because a lot of people have been asking me that too. So we're going to have Massood Joomratty, a lawyer, Massood Joomratty, who's going to be joining me in 5 minutes, hopefully. And in the meantime, anything we're going to tell you today is our opinion. You should not act or refrain to act solely on the information provided. You should contact an attorney if you have any questions. And the great news is that a lot of good things happening, of course. For one, we are seeing cases getting unclogged, cases moving, but still the reminiscence of the Trump administration. We are still having issues because I think the people at USCIS are still confused. They're still applying sometimes the old laws, but we are cleaning that up. For one, the public charge rule, that famous rule that kind of scared everybody, is now no longer going to be there. It has been removed completely. The 944 form and all those issues about public charge that Trump was making a big deal about is gone. I don't want to say his name again, but I have to because this relates to his old stuff. The great news is that we're not hearing a lot of news, which is good news. Under Biden, it seems things are moving. He's kind of clearing stuff. I heard also the Bay Area now is getting a lot better in terms of the COVID, and hopefully things will get better. Of course, not everywhere it's the same, but things are good and bad some places. But the good news is we have the 944 form, which is now out, which is a great thing. This was attached to the I-45 adjustment of status, and now since it's gone, it makes a lot of people were not filing because they were worried. Why do they have to get into my personal stuff, etc., etc.? And now you don't have to worry about this. And also a bunch of things like that are happening. For one, cases that have been reopened, which were based on again USCIS. Okay, one thing is very important. I wanted to make sure people understand. A lot of people call me say, "How come my case got denied and this new rule came up?" And how? Because many of the USCIS officers who are working there, they are not really catching up with all the things Biden is doing. Because things are moving so fast, they're still operating under the old rules, and they are sending denials. So in this case, there is a memo that came out, not a memo. Now USCIS is reopening those cases. You just have to file your motion, and they will reopen the cases, and hopefully now you have a chance. For example, H-1B denials, because a lot of people were getting denied on those memos, the old memos that has been rescinded by the courts. For example, the employee-employee relationship memo, the new file memo, the specialty occupation memo, etc. All those have been removed, but still USCIS is using it as a guideline, and they're denying people. If in case you have this kind of situation, give us a call, 510-742-5887. We will be glad to help you on those. And I don't know, Ira, is Massood already there?
No, not yet. I'm getting him on air.
Okay, great. So in the meantime, I was just talking about that. So a lot of cases that are wrongly being denied or being rejected, don't panic. Try to talk to a good lawyer. You can call our office again, 510-742-5887. We might be able to reopen the case and get things moving. And oftentimes you will see cases that, because a lot of people too are still operating under the old rules, and the rules have changed. Although it is a guideline, we're still trying our best kind of to put a little bit in there, but it's not necessary many of the things that was requested before, which means an H-1B becomes a lot easier for, especially a lot of people who in the past the H-1B were denied, for example, in their specialty occupation. We can do that. Massood, are you there?
I'm here, Shah. How are you?
I'm doing well. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry, I'm losing my English right now. So I just wanted to let people know that Massood Joomratty is a lawyer in Canada, and his office is in British Columbia and in Vancouver, right? And he practices immigration law, and you have office at different places. Massood, tell us what's the good news on Canada right now?
Well, the good news is that you're inviting me again. I have been on the show before. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
you.
Yeah, sorry.
We can hear you well. Go ahead.
I've been on your show before, so that's the good news. The second good news is we have a bit of sunshine, so we can compete with California. I'm in Vancouver. And third good news is what you're most interested in is with regards to immigration. There's been lots of things happening. Because of COVID, there's been a lot of restrictions, but there's been a lot of expedited processing for certain type of workers and so forth. Restriction is basically no one can travel to Canada as a visitor at the moment. But you can travel to Canada if you have a work permit, if you have close family members, where you have to prove that you have a relationship and all that, and the usual COVID protocol that many countries are implementing. And then if you have a student visa, study permit, you can travel to Canada. And, of course, if you have got your permanent residency, your immigration papers, then you can travel to Canada. And then you have to comply with the usual protocols of quarantine and so forth. There's been, in terms of the programs themselves, it seems that Canada wanted to clear the backlog of a lot of people who were in Canada waiting for their immigration to be finalized. And those are people under the Canada Experience class. What's that? That's people who have studied in Canada and then got their work experience and then became eligible to apply. They applied and they were waiting forever, and there was a higher score to meet to be eligible to be invited to apply to get their PR. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, the government just dropped that pass mark, if we may call it that, to very, very low. So there was about, I forgot now, 27 or 47,000 people in Canada who got invited for the PR process. And like I said, there are people who studied in Canada and were working, or people who came to Canada on work permit and had accumulated the necessary experience in Canada. So that was a big sweep, and a lot of people are happy about that. There are refugee claimants who were in certain categories of work considered frontline, whether they were in healthcare, whether they were in nursing care, in elderly care. They got pulled out of the refugee stream and they were given a special pathway for immigration. That's a one-time big lottery for everyone. Big boom bonus. What else has been happening? There's been expedited processing for any work permit application approval to the employers, what is known as LMIA. In U.S., you call them labor certification. There were a lot of expedited, approved in 3 to 10 days without advertising and recruitment efforts. And those were for healthcare workers. They were for the agro-food, people who are in the food processing, farming, meat plant workers, meat processing, butchers, and truck drivers. Those were the ones that were preferred, and that's still ongoing. Those are the good news. The bad news is a lot of other processing has been rather slow, and now we are seeing things are picking up very fast. Court hearings are happening very fast at the federal court. We are getting dates for a lot of refugee hearings. We are getting dates for a lot of appeals, immigration appeals. So it's all coming like a flood now. So
yes,
talking to you is a bit of a break for me from all that.
Good. Well, we'll give you that break more often now. Just to let our listeners know, we are in conversation with attorney Massood Joomratty from Canada, and we're talking about Canadian immigration. Massood, let's take one of the specific things that I get right now from a lot of people calling me. Does Canada still have a point system?
Yes, it does. It's the same point system, but different selection system. If I can elaborate on that,
please do.
People who are professionals or trade workers, they are still looked at from a scoring sheet perspective for the usual age, education, work experience, language fluency. Language has become even more and more important. The better your language proficiency, the higher your score. So those things are the same. It's just who will qualify the pass mark. I use the word pass mark because that's easy to understand. That fluctuates. So the point system is still there, but the pass mark fluctuates. It changes depending on whether you are someone who has experience in Canada, you're applying under the Canada Experience class, or you're applying from outside under the outside express entry category.
So this is where the confusion starts. So how about like before, how people will just go and put their names and try to get the score, and then they go ahead and wait, like it takes 2 years, 3 years. That's pretty much gone, right? Am I getting it right?
That program, the system, the way people were selected is gone, but the point system is still here. But the allocation of points for different things, that has changed. If you look at the old point system, people were getting points for age, education, work experience, and apply and wait 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They would get it if they have the pass mark was set. Everyone knew what the pass mark was. So you applied, and then the number of applications and applicants was huge around the world, and everyone had to apply to the Canadian embassy that was that was covering their country, their jurisdiction. Now it has changed. Everyone applies into a pool in Canada, and then you don't know what the pass mark will be next month. There are 1 or 2 draws every month, like a lottery. And because you don't know, you apply and you cross your fingers and you wait for the lottery to be announced. And then if you have that, that's how they regulate the number of people they process.
Okay. That's
yeah. So that's basically a bit confusing if you're not into it. Maybe I see it every day, so it is clear. But there's been fundamental change in the way people are selected. Yeah.
Okay. And it goes faster, you think?
Yes, it's called express entry. It goes faster. It's express entry from the time that you get the pass mark. If the pass mark is, let's say, 470, and you have 470 or above, you will get what is known as an invitation to apply. That means now you submit all the documents that you mentioned on the when you created your profile online to enter yourself in the pool. So after the ITA, it's very fast. Only yesterday someone was telling me if you're in the Canada Experience class, the processing could be in as quick as 3 months. And for
Wow.
the rest, I would say within a year, people get their permanent residency. So it's fast. Yes, it's faster.
Okay.
Hence the name
Because
Express Entry.
Express Entry. Okay. So, Massood, this is why I'm asking that, because many of our listeners ask the same question. You know how it is with the U.S. system right now, especially under Trump. Things have gone a little bit bad. Plus, a lot of people lost their jobs, and they don't want to go back to India or to Pakistan or Nepal or things like that. And can they process it? Let's say, for example, someone is in the U.S. and they know they will have to leave in 6 months. What will you tell those people?
Well, if their legal status is in order, they're not out of status or anything. You're talking about the typical candidate who is in U.S. and their status is going to expire in the next 2-3 months.
Yes. The typical H-1B, L-1, but they are not going to get a green card because they are from India. Things are delayed. And they don't want to really go back to India. They want to do something else. And they want to jump into Canada, but they're still fearful because they don't know how the system works. What will you recommend to those people?
Well, I'll say seek advice from people who can help you. Seek legal advice, and that's one of the reasons why I'm talking to you. And but a question that you asked me last time, and I'm going to answer it before you ask me. There's no preferential treatment of any candidate who is in the U.S. You know, it's the same treatment whether you're in U.S. or you are in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Japan, Australia, wherever you are. It's the same treatment. When I say the same treatment, the criteria are the same, the processing time is the same, right? And because it's all centralized in Canada now. The only difference maybe to U.S. To expats in the U.S. would be people who have a work experience in the U.S. Maybe they'll be more attractive to prospective employers in Canada. You know, especially the high tech, the tech, and highly qualified professionals. But getting a job in Canada is not as simple as just applying like you are applying in your, because every employer will ask you, what can you legally work in Canada? And for that, you need a work permit. And to get a work permit, the employer has to go through some hoops. You have to go through some process, and we can help with those processes as well.
Okay, now let's go to something very specific. If you don't want to
go back to wherever you came from, you're an expatriate in the U.S., plan early. Plan 1 year before your status expires, legal status expires in the U.S. I get many calls, and I'm sure people call your office as well, when their status is, they have 3 months left, and there's so much uncertainty, especially under the previous U.S. regime. There was a bit more uncertainty about what was going to happen. So the government was playing yo-yo with these people's lives and future. So they would call and panic and ask me if they could come to Canada, enter Canada as permanent residents in 3 months, 1 month, So, every candidate has to get their qualifications and credentials assessed in Canada for equivalency. And then, because that will determine how many points they get, whether their education is equivalent to a master's in Canada, a PhD or a diploma or a bachelor's. That's very important. It's called educational credential assessment. And the other very important thing is, just like we all have birth certificates, I tell everyone to get your IELTS or CELPIP, CELPIP test done. These are 2 accredited English language tests that any prospective immigrant has to take. And for the IELTS, there are 2 types, general and academic. And if you are planning to immigrate to Canada, it's the IELTS general, that test that you have to take. And the information is on IELTS.org. There are test centers in every corner of the world. And CELPIP is CELPIP.ca. And there are some centers outside Canada now, beginning to appear a bit more across the world, around the world. These are two tests. The moment you pass the test, you get your score. That score is compared with how many points you get for immigration, and that's final. Just like your education, the points for your education is final after the credential assessment is done. The points that you are awarded for your age is final. It cannot be disputed because you have your birth certificate. The points for work experience, that you have to be very careful. So a lawyer, qualified lawyer, experienced lawyer in Canada will tell you that what experience counts and what doesn't count. That one is a little complicated. So that's where we add value to the process. Because you can imagine there are all sorts of occupations. Some are counted in, some are considered eligible, some not. And what else? If you have any criminal convictions or charge pending somewhere, anywhere around the world, those are important things to overcome before you come to Canada. If you have some kind of ailment, some kind of diagnosed sickness, disease, or your spouse has any kind of disease or ailment, any child who is under 22 who is considered a dependent under the definition of dependence in Canada, there are consequences. They may affect your permanent residency. Even if you score higher than the minimum in terms of points, there are other factors. So there is the grid, the points, the score, and then there are other things like criminal inadmissibility, there's medical inadmissibility, there's security checks. If you have worked or served in an army or military, or you have any link to any organization that's listed on any kind of gray or black list around the world. So it's not just filling a form. Yes, of course, you can fill the forms, read the checklist, and comply and submit. And I encourage a lot of people to do that. But we come in when a lot of people have some doubts, and I keep saying it. People retain us because they have a little fear, 1% doubt, 5% doubt, then they come to us. And we are here to guide them with our experience and excellent teams that we have for various types of application. We have expertise developed over 25 years of experience. And, as an attorney yourself, as a lawyer practicing immigration, navigating immigration may seem easy. I'm not saying it's difficult, but it's tedious. And sometimes there are traps that if you don't open your eyes wide and your ears sharp, you may fall into those traps.
Definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Shah Peerally Law Show, and we have today with us the pleasure of the presence of attorney Massood Joomratty, Canadian immigration lawyer. He has been practicing for a long time, more than I've been practicing, and he has extensive experience when it comes to immigration. Massood, let me ask you another question, but before that, if anybody needs to call, they can feel free to call if you have any questions, right?
Sure.
Ira, so can you give the number for us, because I keep forgetting the number.
No, absolutely. Let me give out the studio number. Listeners, if you have any questions about US immigration, ya fir right now, if you have any question about Canada immigration, well, we do have the experts on air with us. Call us right now on 510-657-1170. That's 510-657-1170. With so much uncertainty that has been floating around, people have been really considering moving to Canada. In fact, you hear every second person saying, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to Canada.
Welcome to Canada. Well, it's a good place. During COVID, the government took care of a lot of people, including international students and workers.
Exactly.
So we are blessed.
And that's one thing to praise to you guys, is Canada kind of gave something that even the U.S. has not been giving. Really, for 1 year, I think, now they have been really kind of taking care of their people with free medical. Honestly, I'm thinking to move to Canada, too. I've been saying that for a while.
Canada is a caring nation and compassionate government.
Please make that too.
You're welcome. Just you have my direct number, so
yes, I do. I will get in touch with you. I'm serious about it.
You'll get a discount.
Exactly. But Masood, one thing very important now. Let's talk a little bit about the companies that are set up here. We're going to talk
Yes.
about two groups right now. Companies that are set up here, I know now they are thinking of moving their candidates to Canada.
Yes.
And what will you, because we work with a lot of them, what will you advise a small company if they want to have their workers move to Canada, setting up a company? What can be done? Tell us a little bit.
Well, there's something called the intra-company transfer, and it has some requirements. But very quickly, if a U.S. corporation has a sister company here or subsidiary in Canada, then they can move their workers. Of course, they have to justify why they're moving them here, from executives to technicians to anyone, basically. But they have to be skilled workers. They can be moved to Canada rather fast to this intra-company transfer program. It's a work permit. It's not a permanent residency. And after that person or those persons, the intra-company transferee workers have some experience in Canada, depending on their language skills. Again, I go back to the points and all those things. They will become eligible to apply to immigrate to Canada. And applying to immigrate for the permanent residency, which is the equivalent of your green card, there are different programs. There's a federal program, the Express Entry that I talked about. There are different provinces that offer different selection programs. So there's a plethora of programs you can tap into. So we sit here with our toolbox. You come to us, and then we look at you and say, this one will work, and then we prescribe and move forward. So these companies they have to set up in Canada, and our company, our firm provides those corporate services. And then you have to have justification why you're moving these people these workers from the U.S. to Canada. Of course, if you have a worker who is a U.S. citizen who you have to move to Canada, to your corporation in Canada, then maybe the old NAFTA will apply. It's known as CUSMA now, Canada, U.S., Mexico agreement. So we still miss calling it NAFTA. So those can be processed in 30 minutes. It's very fast. So it's a good way to enter Canada, and then it's a fast way to enter Canada to be transferred from your U.S. company to your Canadian company. You could be the owner of the company too. You can transfer yourself. Of course, if you meet the requirements, that's one quick way for someone to exit U.S. and get into Canada if they don't want to return if they come from somewhere else and they don't want to return to those countries. And then later consider their PR, permanent residency options, and then become eligible for permanent residency and apply. So quick entry into Canada is by a work permit or even student visa. So since you asked me about the corporations, it's the intra-company transfer is a good tool to use. There's also something called the owner-operator. If you own a company in the U.S. or you're an executive that has some plans, you could acquire a company just over 50%. Or up to 100%, of course, in Canada, and you can move to Canada on a work permit. There is also something called startup visa. It's for people who have...
Hold on, Massood, hold on. Let me interrupt you. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. The last one you just mentioned, if someone buys part of that, does that lead to a permanent residence?
No, it's always... The first door you enter is always a work permit. Okay?
Yes.
But there are programs in Canada that allow the person in the U.S. to become permanent resident through the sponsorship of a company. But it starts with a work permit application.
Okay, perfect. Sorry I interrupted because this is important.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just don't want to go into too much details because it's confusing. The last one I was talking about was the startup visa. This is where people come and they start their company, and they may get funding from venture capitalists or angel investors, or they can just start their own company and get. This one gets you permanent residence. If you qualify, you get permanent residency in 6 to 8 months. It's very fast. And this one was targeted at all those H-1B geniuses that are sitting in the U.S. Canada even advertised. They had billboards in California and Silicon Valley. So they were trying to attract the bright minds from the U.S. Doesn't mean you have to invent Microsoft or Google or Hotmail. It means you have to have some kind of good business idea that can add value to Canada. So Startup Visa, Google it, you can read it. If you need our help, we are here.
Tell us a little bit more about that. This is the hot plan, I think, for a lot of people, because a lot of our listeners in the Silicon Valley. Give us a little bit more details.
Yeah, a bit more details. And the Startup Visa is more into it's for people who are business owners, or they are they're into high management, senior management positions, right? And then they have to meet the minimum requirements. Basically, what that program was set up for was to look for people who have some kind of innovative idea, and they can create jobs for Canadians from 2 to many, and they can compete globally. Those are the ideal candidate profiles, but there are people who don't have the ideal, innovative idea, but they have some good ideas that instead of starting it up in California, Canada wants them to be started in Canada, and that person has to provide a business plan, a proposal. We help with that. And those go to designated organizations that have been accredited by the government to vet these applications, these proposals. And then for some of them, there are venture capital funds that will invest in them. Some of them will be attractive to angel investor groups. And then there are business incubators who may have an interest or just charge a fee to help you get that approval. It's a bit like the provinces nominate people, select people. This one is the designated organization select you. The moment they select you, they give you a letter of support, and that's the big ticket to permanent residency. And then you apply for immigration. The process is rather fast. It used to be 6 months, but now because of COVID, the processing time has gone just over 1 year. I think the time will go down, but it's not for everyone. You really need advice. You need support from someone who knows about Startup Visa. Otherwise, you'll be wasting your time and money. So if you fall under any of these programs, just contact us, and we can take a look and guide you to the right maze. They're all mazes, so we will choose the easiest and shortest maze for you.
So we can navigate easier. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we have attorney Massood Joomratty with us talking about Canadian immigration. And thank you so much for being here, Massood. So we're going to talk about something. One before I move to the next topic, I wanted to ask you, when you're talking about the startups, do they have to invest anything from their pocket, or it's all basically
No, they have
invested?
to. They have to also invest. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
they have to have
minimum
a business,
amount?
They have to. Roughly, I'm saying, depending on the type of business, you're talking about $200,000 US.
Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about someone who doesn't have a startup. He just wants to invest in Canada and want to get the permanent resident. What should they do? Because I know a lot of people right now, especially in India, they don't feeling comfortable, or Pakistan, or Nepal, Afghanistan.
If they're ready to buy a business, then we can guide them. They can buy a business, and then we use that for them to get a work permit to enter Canada and then obtain the permanent residency. But just buying a business does not mean you're guaranteed to get your permanent residency in Canada, okay? You still need to have meet language requirements, meet medical requirements, meet work experience requirement, and so forth. Language is the biggest. The other ways is, so those are for people who are ready, willing, and able to buy a business now, or 50% of a business now, just over 50%. For those who are a bit want to play it safer, and they're not rushed for time. They're willing to wait. There are different investment programs that are available in Canada, and the applicant invests only when the approval is received. So it's safe. But there's a lot of work. You have to have a business proposal. Some people call it business plan, but it's a business proposal that is in line with the program you're applying under. And once you get approval, you get to enter Canada with your family, which includes children who are under 22 and have no medical issues, no criminal issues. You enter on a special work permit to start your business. And once you prove that you have started and ran the business, have been running the business as you should on a day-to-day basis. So basically your presence in Canada is very important. They don't want people's money, they want people's management and business skills. So once you prove that you have meet the requirement of acquiring a business and running it and operating it for about 18 months, then you will be selected, and then the permanent residency process from there on is about another 18 months. So that is about a 3-month process to get permanent residency. But you could be in Canada in about 8 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 12 months. So there are various streams, various programs. Again, if someone has a business and wants to invest in Canada, or is in senior management and wants to invest in Canada. Yeah. Sometimes you may get a job offer from a company that sponsors you to work in Canada, but you can own part of that business, but not more than 10% of that business. So you can invest in a company, and that company can sponsor you to immigrate to Canada. Those are also fast. It takes about 1 year.
Great. So now
that's probably a lot to digest. So that's why we always say, send us your profile. We'll look at it for free, and then we can set up a time and then talk to you depending on how much time we spend. We'll tell you, and it's not very expensive. You pay in Canadian dollars, not U.S. dollars.
Great. So that makes it easier. But Massood, this is the thing now. Since many of our listeners are foreign, we don't have listeners, luckily, just in the U.S. I know people are listening to us around the world. Is there anything specific, like U.S. have some kind of programs for Australia, some kind of programs with Canada, with Singapore? Some countries, does Canada have something like that?
Yeah, well, I said for U.S. there's CUSMA, the old NAFTA. For Europe we have I think it's called FITA or EFTA, European Free Trade Agreement, which includes mobility of people and workers and businesses. But Canada has agreements with a lot of countries under its International Mobility Program, previously known as, I think it was Working Holiday Program. So this is like Australia and Hong Kong, a lot of people, and Japan, I think Korea too. These are for people who move to Canada, again, on a temporary work permit for summer, for 1 year. You know, that's why if you go to ski resorts, you see a lot of Australians working on the ski resorts. So that's it. There's no permanent residency programs where if you're a citizen of a specific country, you get some priority on permanent residency. Canada is a country of equal opportunity, so it has to display that equal opportunity policy around the world. Otherwise, a lot of people will not be able to get into Canada.
Exactly, and I agree with that. Here we have this issue of country per country, and this is why you see a huge difference between people coming from India and China, but also because they have the most number of applications.
Yes.
So, exactly, and you know, that's the thing that is really kind of getting people very stressed. They wait for years. I have clients who waited for 20 years to get a green card. I have others who waited for 5 years, 10 years. There are some options, like we have EB1, etc., etc.
Yes.
Let's say now, for example, you have someone who is, you know, the EB1 categories, right? So people of extraordinary abilities. Do they have any special thing for them?
Well, I would say they'll probably fit under the startup visa program, because then maybe the angel investor, the venture capitalist will invest in them. They may not have to invest any of their money.
No, but let's talk about someone, for example, a professor, right, who has a PhD and who doesn't want to stay in the U.S. or for whatever reason is not getting a U.S. Usually in the U.S. we have a program called EB1A, which we do a lot for people of extraordinary ability, people who have publications, people who have...
yes, we have something called self-employed category, okay? Self-employed program is for people who have extraordinary abilities, and they have been recognized internationally, or at least nationally. Someone who's prominent in the U.S., like anyone who's been prominent in the U.S., they are recognized as being outstanding. So the self-employment program may work for them. This is where they come to Canada, and they will set up their own business, whether it's writing, drawing. It's good for people who are into cultural activities, artists, and sports people. If Michael Jordan wanted to get immigration to Canada, it would be very fast, and he would fall under the self-employed program. He doesn't even have to worry about too much money. He can just come under that program. So take an artist who's recognized across India, who is a famous painter, well known, has displayed her work or his work around India, and even went for some events to Dubai and so forth, recognized nationally, or has publications, books and research and so forth. Those people may fall under the self-employed program. That's for permanent residency straight. There's no work permit requirement for that one. And that one takes about over 1 year.
Great. So, Massood, anything we missed? I think we have another 5 minutes or so to go. So tell me anything we missed, anything very interesting. Today we really had pretty much a whole overview on all the options for Canada, and we'll go into details of them.
What I see very often, Shah, is a lot of people who may have DUIs in the U.S., and they have visa to visit Canada. This applies to U.S. citizens or any other citizen who has a visa to travel to Canada. They just drive up, and at the border they get turned away because of the DUI. So there are things that we can do to address those before someone travels with any kind of criminal conviction, including DUI. The other thing that I see a lot is people who get married to Canadian citizens or permanent residents in Canada. They get sponsored, but they have some kind of criminal conviction in a former state where they were living. But Canada wants good people from everywhere. So, and the processing, the treatment is the same, whether you are an African prince in California, or you are a genius from Mumbai in Silicon Valley, or you are a farmer from Punjab in anywhere in the U.S. So treatment is the same. The criteria is applied with the same. The criteria apply with the same discipline to every applicant. There's no priority, except if you're coming with large investments, like over 1 million, over 2 million, 3 million and up. Those are possible if they're going to create a lot of jobs, especially in the post or during COVID. You may be given priority to move here quite fast.
Exactly.
There's lots. So immigration practice is so huge and wide that sometimes I get overwhelmed myself. So I do try to keep up to date, and then we deal with a lot of people who have their visas refused, so they don't know their rights of appeals. There are a lot of people who may have permanent residency. They have immigrated to Canada years ago, but they returned to the U.S. or from U.S. to India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, wherever, and they think because their PR card has expired, they can no longer come back to Canada. That's it. but there's a process for that where you should not assume that you have lost your status. Your PR card may have expired, but you have not lost your status. Your driver's license is just like your driver's license may expire, but you don't stop knowing how to drive, right? So those people need to contact a lawyer in Canada who can guide them and apply for them for that status to be saved and or restored.
Exactly. Well, in the U.S., unfortunately, it's more difficult because once you get an abandonment, to get it back becomes such a complication. I get those calls every day. People who went, especially during the COVID time, they got stuck in India and now they cannot come back. And it's a very difficult process because in the past, most of those cases under SB1, we call it, have been denied. So you're saying in Canada it's not the same thing. So ladies and gentlemen, if you need help, feel free to reach out to Massood Joomratty, or you can call our office and we can actually go ahead and introduce you to him. And I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you, Massood. Anything you wanted to add before we close? We have 2 minutes, I think, to go. And
we actually have 6 minutes to go. So, in fact, I was in fact also going to ask what are your contact details. But like Attorney Shah said, listeners, you can get in touch with Attorney Shah Peerally's office, and he, they would connect you to Attorney Massood.
That's the best way. It's best to contact Shah Peerally's office because I also want to track how many people are coming to Canada through this show. So it's important, right? From a marketing, from business perspective.
If people are listening to our show, right? I don't know right now.
You have to know. I mean, I could bypass you and give you my website and
sure,
phone
go ahead.
number. But the best thing is they contact you because your office is very organized, very diligent. I get a lot of referrals from you that I don't pay you for. But so it's your service to the community there, I guess.
Don't have to say that loud.
We'll be happy to do that, no problem. But if my practice is causing too much stress on your staff and your system, then we can talk about that on the next show. But I'll be happy. From your producer, who has expressed an intention, a willingness to come to Canada, to the owner of the station, to the workers there. I want to hijack all of them and bring them here.
I was in fact going to say that.
Oh man, just take the whole radio then.
You can relocate and do it from here. These days, you could be sitting on a beautiful island in the middle of your pineapple field and run a radio show. Nobody will know where you are, right?
Okay, well, you are just making it worse. You're making it more and more difficult to be sitting here and, talking about this. Let's just do it soon.
That's one of my goals, to take time to talk to you guys. You think it's for free? I have to generate something.
No, actually. And you thought, right? Like you want to see how many people from this show would like to, how many people would move to Canada through this show. Well, you at least have 2 people right now in front of you who would love to move and, you could help us out. Listeners, if you are also considering moving to Canada, in all seriousness, okay, threatening people that I'm going to go to Canada is a different thing. But if you really, really move to Canada, get in touch with Attorney Massood Joomratty, and you could do so by getting in touch with Attorney Shah Peerally's office. They'll connect you. And remember, the number to call Attorney Shah Peerally's office is 510-742-5887. That's 510-742-5887. You'll get this information and all more information on the website peerallylaw.com. That's PEERALLYLAW.com. Last 3 minutes. What else would you like to say before we wrap up?
Yes, Massood, and one thing I wanted to add before you go, just to let people know that it's a good backup. A lot of people also just say, I'm going to get it in U.S., but it's not only a backup. In fact, Canada will probably come faster for people from India than the U.S.
So they love to go to Canada, yes.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So take the Canadian, become a citizen, and then you come back here. That's what I propose them, right?
The moment you're a Canadian citizen, you can live anywhere else in the world, right?
Exactly.
And at least for generations will benefit from access to Canada and all the wonderful things that we offer people here. but we expect something in return, which is work, pay taxes, be good people, and coexist peacefully, and practice your faith, religion, if you have any. If you don't, then leave everyone else alone to practice theirs, and be happy, and build a better world. That's what Canada is all about.
Wow, you're the best promoter of Canada.
Promoter of Canada.
Thank you so much, Massood. Yes. Thank you so much, Massood.
Canada has accepted me as an immigrant and given me the chance to be a lawyer that is not judged by his color of skin or by the way he speaks his English, but on competence. So I'm grateful. And I want to share that with everyone else.
Is your Prime Minister really as great as we see him?
I don't know. Well, it depends whether you like him with the gray beard or without.
With.
Oh, he's awesome. I think we had such a nightmare for 4 years. Everybody was begging him to become the president here.
Wow.
So thank you so much, Massood. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. And ladies and gentlemen, this was attorney Massood Joomratty from Canada joining us today, and hopefully we'll have him now at least once a month. Massood, we have to make it more frequent. So please join in and feel free to come. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you to both of you. You're a wonderful host.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Attorney Massood, for being here with us.
And have a good day. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And listeners, we have Attorney Shah Peerally on air with us. Attorney Shah, anything that you'd like to add in the last minute before we go?
For those who needs help, either U.S. immigration or Canadian, they can call our office and we will introduce you to Massood. Our phone number 510-742-5887. The website is peerallylaw.com. And anything we told you today is on educational purposes only. You should not act or refrain to act solely on the information provided. You should contact an attorney if you have any questions. Again, our number 510-742-5887. Thank you, Ira. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week, same time.
Thank you, Attorney Shah. Thank you very much for being here with us. You have a great day. I'll talk to you again next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. And thank you, listeners. Remember, once again, the number to call, the office number to call is 510-742-5887. That's 510-742-5887. The website is peerallylaw.com, peerallylaw.com. And Attorney Shah Peerally joins us here every Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So you can always call and tune into this show. Otherwise, always get in touch with him. You stay tuned to Radio Zindagi. This is